Yeah, sometimes. It's in my way, huh? Yeah.
I was.
I'm just turning some of
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Commissioners for November 19th to order. If you would, please stand, and we will have Pastor Salisbury pray for us.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for another day and for the opportunity we have to serve the community. And Lord, we thank you for the commissioners. We just pray your blessing upon them, that you grant them wisdom. And Lord, as we move forward, we ask your blessing upon this county, that we would see your hand of blessing and prosperity, and that we would see the goodness that you have in store for us. And let our hearts be turned to you. Let us be aware of all the things that you've given to us. And in this Thanksgiving season, Lord, let us not stop to give you the thanks and the praise that is needed. And we just commit this meeting to you now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pastor. Now we will say the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, if you would, please turn the ringers off on your cell phones as well. Our first item on the agenda, our agenda's been changed a little bit, and we will go with payroll. Derek?
Well, the election will, that's why, because of the workers' food election. And so, yeah. I move to approve payroll for check the 11/21/12 in the amount of $134,978.
We have a motion second on the floor to approve payroll claims today in the total amount of $134,978 for November 21st. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Okay, miscellaneous claims.
The claims total is $96,468.56.
There isn't any money in that fund at all, it's zero.
That's not included in the corrections.
No.
That he was asking to make.
But who,
Jason and me.
No.
They're putting together.
no, I think that the council did a completely different thing on inspections, and they put it in a completely different fund. It's not in, it's not in the, it's not in Jason's budget, general fund, I don't think. The other one that was the surveyor's perpetuation fund, that one also, that one doesn't have any money in it. So I wondered what he was going to do on that one. Did Jason fill that one out? Yeah, see, okay, see, it's got a negative balance of $12,000.
Well, I think there's also a little bit of correction that we made too, because somebody wasn't figuring out herself what that was.
See, this doesn't have anything to do with drink. Nothing. So, I don't,
I'm going to pull those two.
I don't know. No, these two have nothing to do with drainage.
What's the other one?
It's surveyor's perpetuation fund. It's on page. Oh, it's on page 3. Surveyor corner perpetuation. Yeah. There's two. On Tipton buildings compliance, it's 62820. Now, these, either of those two have no money. So we will have those out for the 62820, what was the other one?
There's one for 562.50, 276.
Wait, 62820, and what was the other five?
Where are you getting?
62820 was the total on surveyor perpetuation. 352 and 276.
And then the other one is 562.
Yeah, 1197. Okay, so we take 1190 off of this. Okay, off of 96. Okay, oh, okay, what is it going?
95 to 277, 84.
You have some claims taken out?
Because there's no money in two of those accounts.
Well, what was the name, everybody? What's the name?
It's called surveyor perpetuation.
Tipton building supplies and physicians.
Page 3. You just pull them out, so we find from the technical, van rubber and building supplies.
And the positioning, yeah. Yeah, I'm not disputing that they're valid, I'm just saying you need to figure out where they come from.
Okay.
And other than those, do you have any other questions on any others? Okay, move we approve claims in the correct amount of $95,277.84 for docket date 11/19/12.
Second. Okay, we have a motion second on the floor to pay today's miscellaneous claims in the amount of $85,277.84. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries.
Now, those other two claims, we're gonna put them off to next meeting.
Just forget them till, I'm gonna go talk to Jason after I get done. I'll go talk to Jason after.
And what about these other claims that are pulled out and separate?
We have one for Linda Williamson, in the amount of $3,300.
You guys know what the status is of the Toledo with the founder director?
They have not hired anyone yet. She wants to know what the status is on the Lido, whether they've hired a director. Last one I had, they have not hired a director.
I've heard they've got a pin appointed, but I have not heard it from the board yet. They're hoping for the first of December. Well, shortly after.
So why did, so what was the purpose of paying for November?
For what she has done for us.
No, for the Lido last time. I went out and talked to Mike Harlow after a meeting, and I did ask him, what the invoice was for, and he said it was for November and December. It was not for prior services. He also said they are not working on anything until the director is hired. So my question was, why did we pay $7,250 then, if they're not doing anything? They've not rented any space. He said they have no bills, they have no director. So my question is, we sent $7,250, if they're not gonna have a director, why did we do that? So I think some consideration needs to be made to address that in January.
That is a possibility. They have the money now that if they need it tomorrow, they don't have to wait 2 weeks to come to get the money appropriated or get it okay. So they have what they need to go forward without any holdbacks from our point. We signed that we are all for them. We want to help them and give them anything they need, not hinder them. So they have the freedom to do what they need. If there needs to be an adjustment, then that is a possibility.
And I understand that, but I just want everyone to know that I did speak with him, and he said it was absolutely not for anything prior to November 1st, and that they were not working on anything until a director was hired. So I hope that there can be an adjustment now. But as far as Linda's concerned, we need to discuss if they have somebody on board that.
And they don't have anybody on board. They didn't have that till Friday, so. I need a motion to pay Linda's claim so we can move on.
I'll make the motion we pay Linda's claim in the amount of $3,300.
We have a second. Second. And a motion second to pay Linda Williamson's claim of $3,300. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
We have Vectren, which I paid in the amount of $181.22 with Friday. That is the other one I received, so I paid it.
Oh, this, you've already paid this?
That's just extra. I got one here.
Okay.
No, pay wages, no pay is mine. Thank you.
Okay, this is a utility bill already been paid. I move we approve it to Vectren in the amount of $181.22.
So you made the motion, Pat?
Yes.
Second.
So how much, what was the bill?
$181.22.
1,700.
Oh,
What is it?
Not for the Vectren.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
These are utilities.
and this, is this for the courthouse?
This is for 380 is the jail.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to pay the veteran bill of $181.22. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries.
The next one was already paid, and we're approving it after the fact to Tipton Utility Service Board in the amount of $2,792.55. I move we approve to pay.
Second.
have a motion second to pay the Tipton utility bill of $27.92.55. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Okay, I do have a question, Lindsay, on
Lindsay, we did sign that one. 180 what bill of after.
We moved to approve John Brooks' bill last month out of, our last meeting out of Project 52, but I didn't hear it was paid. Okay, it's not showing it in the budget. And also the transfer from electric and water was named to electric and water, but it wasn't taken out of gas. And also, I cannot find that the Simplex rental claim of $475 that was approved on 10/22 was not, was paid. You know about that one? No, I'm not sure. Okay, now you have telephone? Yes. Okay, Bill needs to be in here. Okay.
Jason, is Bill out there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We need to have him for this telephone bill. Okay, Lindsay, what is it?
The total amount for TDS is $3,423.70.
And what are those all for? Is that the courthouse bundle and what else?
Sheriff's Crime Hotline.
Hey, John? John, I do have a question about your, this sheriff's hotline. Is that something that is required by the state or anything? Did you know that it's over $600 a month?
Yeah, it was supposed to be free. I guess when I came in, that's what I understood. Because we put Tipton bill for TDS Telecom as the sponsor of it stuff. I really don't even need it because I can't get into the voicemail part of it.
Well,
And we joined that Crime Stoppers, so I mean, that's a line that we could cut out very easily.
yeah, I was checking on that and I called it and I get an answering machine. And then you had told me that,
And that's all it is. It is the machine. And I don't have it, I can't get
Okay.
into it. They were supposed to come over and help me get into it. I got into the first year and now I don't get into it.
okay, well, that has cost us over $7,000 a year.
I have no clue. I never get phone bills.
Okay.
That's
Okay, we
the
need to
number
stop
I
that
think
when we
we
get
have.
it done. Okay.
Can we stop it?
Go ahead.
I think you can stop the line, yeah.
The discussion is about the phone bill.
The phone, the telephone bill?
She had some questions.
Okay, Lindsay, what is the amount?
$3,423.70.
Okay, and then in your budget, there's only $557.
Yes, there was an additional appropriation request made to the council, and I understand that somebody said that they thought it had already been taken care of, and so it got nixed.
No, this was your request, right? This one right here? Okay, and it says here, telephone, transfer $3,481.
It says I could transfer that amount, and
Right.
I did transfer that to the telephone,
Right.
and then there was an additional appropriation request up there at the top that said October through December. Okay, and so because that got nixed, there's going to be no money to pay the phone bill. Somebody got involved with that, I don't know who got involved with it, but
It said can transfer out of the following lines
That's right.
to go toward any of the above.
that's right.
To go toward any of the above.
I said I could transfer that to the telephone, I did. But this right here, October through December, there was a $3,000 request in that somehow got nixed. I don't know how it got nixed. No, that was transferred,
To
and I
go
did
toward
that.
any of the above.
That's right. And I
So they
took this
put
to the
this
phone.
toward this.
No, this was, as I said, I can transfer out the following items to go towards any of the above. That's right, and I did. Then I asked for an additional appropriation, October through December, for the phone bill of $3,000. Okay? That was well known, that I needed to do that. That got nixed.
Well, I think that
So
that's
now
very,
there's not
I think that's very confusing to go towards any of the above.
wasn't to me. I mean, that made perfect sense.
To go towards this. Okay, well, it
perfect sense.
doesn't
So
matter
anyway,
because they're still short,
That's
because
right.
if we pay it now, we need some for December.
right,
We need
there
for
is
December.
it's too late to do an additional appropriation. And so I don't know where that money's coming from. Somebody got into my budget and started transferring things around, and I don't know where this stuff's gonna come from now. Unbeknownst to me. I mean, there were transfers made that I didn't know anything about, and so I don't know where the money's gonna come from.
Is this the one that Jackie?
Well, I asked the question twice in the council meeting in October about this particular issue, and all the council members told me that they felt that this 3481
I think on
was
their-
going to take care of
On the
this.
recording, I believe it was said that you were sure that it had been taken care of, and if the council agreed with that.
I said, is that how you interpret this twice? I said that, and they said
And they
yes.
said yes.
Okay.
So they misinterpreted it right along with you.
I think that pretty much says what it says. But anyway, we're still in the situation that we are. So, guys, I don't know what, but even if it had been approved, you still don't have enough for December. So what are we going to do? We now are going to have this bill plus the December one.
Correct.
Greg, did Jackie have some ideas?
The recommendation was to take $5,000 out of either
So utilities,
no, it's,
gas.
Unemployment.
unemployment, yes, unemployment compensation or deferred
And
compensation.
then put that into outside professional
Yes.
services.
Yes, and then use that, authorize the payment of the telephone and internet from that line for the November, and December bills.
And I spoke with Tammy White about that, and that would work.
The internet is fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's just
I didn't see you set back there, Jackie. I could have asked you directly. What, will the $5,000 cover the both months?
It should.
if you look at the past history, it should.
Okay.
Out of what? What are you saying? Out of unemployment?
Yes.
Out of unemployment or deferred compensation, either one, but unemployment, we got plenty there.
Unemployment's the healthiest.
Health is one of the two.
But how do we know we're not going to have any claims on that?
You're not gonna have $15,000 worth of.
Is that what we have left now?
Yes. That would be more than what you have all year.
Yes, we need to
Well,
motion
wait a
to
minute.
request for transfer, right? That's right.
But wait.
Yeah, we'll have to get permission from the council to do that.
There's like $14,487 in the unemployment line.
Jackie's already looked at it, so.
I'll make
Well,
a,
wait a minute, we have to have the council approval to move from unemployment to outside professional
That's
services.
right, but they need a motion from us to do it.
To do it.
I'll make a motion for a request for transfer of funds in the amount of $5,000 from unemployment to outside professional services to pay December's telephone and internet.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to request a transfer of $5,000 from unemployment to outside professional services for telephone and internet. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Bill, while you're here, where's the Lenovo laptop?
I'm sorry,
Where's the Lenovo laptop?
Lindsay,
or
you have a.
Where is it? That was, that Gail used.
it's in my office.
Okay, we need that because,
Do we need a motion to pay for it?
I need to see that because there was a request made to use that for the economic development.
Right.
Okay.
And then also, the extra key for that office, Greg needs that.
Okay.
Greg, have you gotten that yet? Okay, he needs that. There are two, correct?
I've only got one. I don't know where the second one is.
Did Gail not turn hers into you?
How much is it?
No. I've got one.
She did not turn her key in.
Well,
I don't have
Thirty-four.
I only got one member key. I understand the sheriff's department has one.
Did you ever have a key to that office?
Sorry?
Did you ever have a key to that office?
Other than what's in a magnetic holder, no.
Okay, well, Greg needs the key.
Okay.
That's the auditor's the
We've
keeper
already
of the
signed
keys.
that.
You
Okay,
guys are good with that,
and
right?
we do need the Lenovo. When I talked to Mike Carlo, I told him that we had bought that Lenovo laptop from the economic development funds and said that, that they could use that. And the printer also. There's a printer that we bought with the economic development funds. I thought that would help him out. So,
Yeah, I'm fine with
I'm
that.
fine with that, okay.
so anyway, we need to get it
Yeah.
and
I'll
and
give
make
you
sure
mine.
that it's all, anyway, that would help them as far as them not having to buy anything.
Well, why don't you just, you can talk to Mike Harlow, and whenever
Yeah.
they're ready for it, they can come here and get it. There's no
Okay.
need shuffling it around.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, now we need a
Back to
motion.
telephone, back to telephone. I make a motion, we pay the telephone bill amount of $3,423.70 after the council transfers our funds, agrees to the transfer of our funds.
Okay, we have a motion second on the floor to pay the phone TDS bill here of $3423.70 after approval of the county council transferring funds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Hey, Mike, I have a question.
Brenda?
Thanks, Jackie, for the help.
Who can go into any department and pull money out of their budget without them knowing that somebody's taking money out of their account?
Council?
Council can?
Yep.
Is it just one person, or does it have to be unanimous?
It should be the full council, the majority of the board.
Okay, so you guys can't go in and start transferring money out of people's accounts, out of their budget, in order to pay this bill, and this bill?
I don't know that.
Well, we didn't transfer any money out of anybody's budget, but when the Lyle Technical Services bill came due, and it was due on July 31st, and we had to pay it, we set up here, I don't know, maybe over a month ago, and we paid it out of the IT budget because that's where the bill was from. So we paid it out of the IT budget.
No, but what I'm saying is that if you've got a bill that hasn't been paid, you can go into somebody else's budget without telling them that, hey, I took 5,000 out of this line, I took 5,000 out of this line. So they know that before they start buying stuff and thinking that there's money in that account to pay for it?
I don't think that's ever been done. Because what we did, as far as paying the Lyle Technical Service bill, the only money that we used was in the IT budget, and that's where the bill was from.
Well, then why did he just say that he didn't know where that money came from?
I don't know.
Took out,
I
on
don't
who
know.
took it out?
It was paid from the IT bill, from the IT budget. We all reset up here.
I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about just what he just said.
I don't know what he's
Somebody
talking about.
took money out of the account because there
I have
wasn't
no
enough
idea
money in
who
there to
took
pay the
money
phone
out
bill.
of their account.
Yes, yeah.
I have no idea.
My comment to that was an action of the county council.
Okay.
So, thank you. Next, we're going to change, thanks, Bill.
Okay.
We're going to change our agenda here just a little bit. We have some people from the Tipton County Fair Board, and they were later in the agenda, but circumstances have changed, so they need to move forward. So, Rick Stahl?
Yep, Rick Spong, I'm representing the Fair Board, and thanks for getting me in early because I need to get back to work. Luke Lightfoot and Steve Mason with Co-Alliance is here with me. The Fair Board would like your permission to tile the county farm, the part that we are currently farming. We would like to go out and ask for 3 proposals on ditching the farm that we're farming now. Go over the bids, pick a contractor, and then we're estimating it's going to cost $60,000, $65,000 what we want to spend. And we would like, if possible, to go and borrow a portion of that and have the commissioners co-sign it and get the place ditched.
Okay. How much money are you guys planning on putting into it?
We haven't got all of our, everything in from the farm this year, but I expect we could put, $15,000 to $20,000 down. We'd like to borrow roughly $45,000 and pay for it over 3 years. payments would be roughly $15,600 a year. In doing so, we'd like to ask Co-Alliance for a 3-year contract to help us farm it the way we're farming. In return, we'd like to have a 3-year contract with the commissioners so we can keep farming for 3 more years. That's basically what we're doing. We are still farming it. Co-Alliance is, well, Luke, you want to explain what we're doing for us?
Co-Alliance is basically doing custom farming for the Fair Board. So the Fair Board still has the lease with the commissioners, and we have an agreement with the Fair Board that we will actually plant, harvest, spray, supply seed and chemistry for the Fair Board. They do supply the fertilizer for the fairgrounds. That is part of their responsibility. But in return, Co-Alliance gets to use that place for research, and we also get to use that for as plot days and get to publish the information that we glean from the ground. The issues that we've encountered over the past 2 years is the ground is very poorly drained, and it's very hard to glean good data that we can distribute out to farmers and have significant confidence behind it. You can see in the maps, those maps are some I've provided over the years. There are aerial images, so it's mostly just an estimation of areas that are affected by drainage. I can tell you for certain the 2011, because we did farm that in 2011, significant yield reduction. A lot of the data was lost. Even this year, going through a drought, we had a significant rain on April 5th that hit that fairgrounds. The whole ground was underwater a portion of the time. It was actually right when the corn was emerging, so we had a large population reduction on our corn, which affected our test results too this year. So in order to continue to do this, we just need to have that field systematically drained for Co-Alliance to still glean the data and the value off that fairgrounds. And that's why we went to the Fair Board and requested that the ground, for us to continue to contract with the Fair Board, the ground be tiled.
How many acres are you currently farming?
Roughly, right around 70 acres.
Okay. Because the other is with the gardens, right? The community gardens, that's where the other 7 acres is taken?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know exactly how many acres, but I suppose it's right. Isn't that right, Luke? You farm for 70 acres?
It's a little over 70.
What did you make this year?
All the tickets aren't in yet.
But what was your bushel? What were your bushels per acre? No, you don't know that either?
Yeah, the corn average was
Yep, I got this. The average soybean yield was 70.63 bushel. The corn average was 171.09. So we were very happy with the soybean yield this year, and the corn yield wasn't actually that bad either.
And with Co-Alliance, they determine when they sell the
No,
crop? They
that's
do?
the Fair Board.
The Fair Board you determine?
Right.
So did you hit that pretty good?
Dustin does a big part of it, and he makes several phone calls. I mean, he's not perfect, but I think he does a very good job. It looks,
So you've got it.
we're over budget. From what we expected to get, we're doing well. Next year could change, but we're happy with the way everything turned out this year.
So you can put down 15,000,
Right.
and then each year you'll just put down another 15,000.
Right.
So basically, you're just asking us for our blessing to do it and
To do it.
and to co-sign on the loan,
Correct.
and you'll get the 3 bids.
And basically,
3 years.
what Co-Alliance is doing for us right here, that's what we feel, that's their part, so it's a win-win. Plus the drowned out spots that we're not harvesting would be a bonus. And once it's paid for, that tile should be there for another 100 years.
Well, I think there's more than just the bonus of the grounded out, because my discussion with Luke earlier were the fact that, and maybe you've changed your mind, but if this ditching project doesn't happen, then the agreement with Co-Alliance probably ends. Is that
Yeah, we
correct?
can't continue to invest the resources, time, money into the ground if we have the likelihood of drowned out areas or poor stands and you just can't do it. You can't have good research, and especially in Tipton County, without significant drainage, and that's what we're requesting.
And you want to secure the lease through what year? You said how many more years?
Be 3 more years.
Okay.
Through 15.
Through 2015?
I mean, that gives us time to pay for the tiling and, 3 years with Co-Alliance to help pay for that.
What kind of, are you gonna grid tile it on like 50-foot centers or what?
We just kind of work 60 foot, is what we kind of come up with. We'll work with. We want to do something fairly fast, and we'd like to have something done by our December 1st Fair Board meeting, so we can send out for 3 proposals and have it approved by January 1. But we're looking like 60-foot grids and putting in a new main. What size main was that? 12-inch main.
So was the estimate that you just gave us, was that just on your own? You gave us a figure of, what'd you say, 60,000?
62,000.
I talked to a contractor personally and had him give me an estimate,
Okay.
and I presented that to the Fair Board.
But we'll go to 3 local contractors and ask for proposals and then open them and go from there.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay. We need to make a motion to do that. We got all the facts, we need to put the motion.
I'll move that we allow the Fair Board to proceed with their project to install tile ditching in the 70 acres that they currently lease from the Board of Commissioners, and to solicit 3 bids and come back to us for our approval and co-sign on a loan for them to pay for this ditching over a period of 3 years, and then to also secure their lease with the Board of Commissioners through 2015.
And the school alliance,
And,
so they won't have to come back next January.
yeah, and also to extend the contract with Co-Alliance through 2015.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion second on the floor then to grant permission to the Fair Board to solicit bids to drain the farm that they lease from the county. Also, at the same time, we will be entering into a 3-year lease with the Fair Board and Co-Alliance, and also co-signing a note for the Fair Board once this moves forward. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now, do I ask for bids or do I ask for quotes? Is there
You actually
different?
need quotes.
I actually need quotes. And then, is it fine we open them at a Fair Board meeting, or do they need to be opened at a commission meeting?
Well,
Actually, since it's our ground, it should be open here.
Okay.
Can we open them at our next meeting? Could you have them that quick?
No,
How about December 17th?
when do you guys meet again?
I need December 3rd, the first Monday of December.
About the 17th?
I mean, I have to have someone help draw up how I want it, the proposal form to quote on, and then, give them time to prepare it.
Well, that's a month, that's 4 weeks from today, is December 17th.
Rick, I'll help you with that.
Okay, yeah, we can try to. I mean, the sooner we get it done, the better. I'd like to have it ditched if possible this winter, so I will try to.
Okay, then I'll move that we have a tentative bid opening on December 17th at 9 o'clock.
Second.
You wouldn't have them by the 3rd, would you? 2 weeks after that? Well, I'm just thinking before we pass this motion.
I mean, how much time do I need to allow a contractor to prepare? I've never done this before. I'm gonna go ask 3 local contractors,
They can
Only
probably,
got about 3 guys you
probably
got.
turn around.
do what?
There's only about 3 contractors you
Oh,
got.
there's 3 or 4 you can ask. I'm gonna ask them all, but
Yeah.
do we have to have 3 proposals or just ask 3 people?
You have to at least ask 3. And then,
Okay.
if you don't get 3 because someone
Yeah.
doesn't want to do it,
That's
you
no big
can't-
deal then.
You can't do anything about that.
Okay.
I'll amend that and say that if you're prepared by the 3rd, that we will have a bid opening scheduled for either 9 a.m. on December 3rd or 17th.
Okay, I'll try to get done.
Okay, so we have a motion and second on the floor then to open bids on December 3rd or 17th at 9 a.m. at 9 a.m. for quotes for the ditching at the fairgrounds.
Okay,
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carries.
thank you.
Yeah, I'm on the third, we'll do it then.
Thanks, appreciate it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Jackie's still there.
Okay, Jackie? Morning.
My report for today is, I've started working on negative balances in funds. We had several funds for which we had some negative balances, and we have realized that, like the first one, the 911, when we combined into the state 911 fund, that there was a payroll that didn't get fixed in the setup, and it came out of the wrong account, and she's went back and made that adjustment to correct that. So the old 911 fund should be dormant from this point forward. Community corrections, she had submitted a claim out of the wrong account, wrong fund, and it put it in the negative, and we called Tracy down, and that one's been corrected. I met with Sheriff Moses this morning on the operation pullover, and we know why it's went into the negative, and we're going to work on correcting that. He brought me the 2011-12 blitz schedule, and he's going to get me the 10-11 blitz tomorrow when I'm here at the council meeting, and we'll be working on getting that back into a zero account. There was a 90-cent negative balance in the wind fund expense fund. We just simply wrote a check from the wind farm fund to the wind farm expense fund and cleared out that 90 cents. The general drain improvement fund has a huge negative balance in it, and that, I believe, has something to do with the way it was handled at settlement time. I've requested information from the surveyor to tell me where he thinks the money should be and the amount that should be attributed to each drain, and I'm going to work forward from there on the drain funds. There's a negative balance in the security protection fund, which is a fund for the recorder's office, and that, what used to be paid out of that fund is now paid out of IT, and I want to meet with Bill this morning and see, there is money in that current line item to correct a bill that was paid back in February and March out of the security protection fund that probably shouldn't have been, definitely shouldn't have been, because there was no funds in there. And if we can correct that, that'll take care of that. Otherwise, it's a fund that'll sit there in the negative until her monthly receipts come in and clear it out. So the Board of Accounts is aware of it. You'll get written up for it. But it generates money each month in her collection, in the recorder's collection fees, and she's aware it's negative and aware she can't spend any more money out of it until it gets up. I've reviewed the revenue that's come in 12 in County General. There were a couple of corrections we had to make of revenue that was in there that shouldn't have been, and it's been put in. It was the homestead seeded money that comes and is dispersed with settlement. Erroneously got put into the general fund. We've corrected that. I'm reviewing the adjustments and the transfers that have been done in the account lines of County General. We've had some that were done incorrectly, and we're correcting those as we go along and keeping track of those. And if you want to see what all the corrections we've made when we're done, I've got a copy of everything that I've had the girls correct. In that transfer, we had some money that was receipted in the receipt account, and then it was transferred out of the receipt account into an expense account, which can't be done. We're finding those and reversing those also. I began working on the settlement fund, and I wanted to work on it yesterday, and unfortunately I couldn't get dialed in, so I was short a couple of reports I needed to work on that fund, to clear that negative fund balance out. And currently as of today, this morning, we have 102 hours left in the contract.
Jackie, I still have I'm gonna have a whole ledger full of errors.
You just need to send them to me.
Well,
I mean,
I
we-
really need to just sit down with someone and do them because I've already got them. There's some that I just need to
But if you
explain.
don't send them to me, Jane, we're wasting my time looking. I'm looking at all of those lines, and if I have those, I don't have to waste my time on those accounts.
Some of them I just need to sit down with Lindsay and just show her. I don't think we should.
But
take
it's
any
not,
of your
but
time.
it's not a matter of just showing her, I don't believe. It's telling her why they shouldn't have come out of that account. And, I mean, I'm wasting your money. I'm looking at the same things and having them correct what you have on your list.
I know, but when I sent the other thing on paper, it didn't, I'd just like to be able to explain what I have with them on paper.
Well, and that's fine, but I'm saying if you send it to me, I don't have to spend my time and your money on looking at those account line items. Because I'm going through each line item and trying to ensure that the vendor that's being spent on those is in fact correct, and when transfers are made, it shouldn't have been. If you have all of that, you're wasting money, county's money, by not sending that to me.
Jackie, I have one of those. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you.
Larry?
I don't have a whole lot really, other than we're patching and cutting brush. Got a call from a farmer last week who was very appreciative of the brush we've been cutting. And it's kind of interesting when I drive other counties that a lot of people don't seem to do that. Allows the farmers to get down the road by hit the combine. I have one permit, field entrance for Schoenberg, Ken Schoenberg at just east of 100 east of 100 south.
Which over?
Ken Schoenberg.
Yeah, from Patricia.
Okay. What is it, not what that is, road, field cuts for the
Hold on. Entrance. Driveway.
Rec permit number 12-035 for a driveway cut at 400 south, south side, the south side of 400 south, east of 100 east for Kenneth and Patricia Schulberg.
Second. Got a motion second on the floor to grant a driveway cut for Nicole Barn from Kenneth Schulenberg, 400 south, just east of 100 east. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
That's all I have.
It's a long wait for
Did
one you have to
you
do.
get your parts? For that generator? Still got it.
Larry, what's going on with berm cutting? Are you going to do any of that this fall?
We had hoped to, but it's been too wet, so we haven't got it done now. About time the soil gets close to drying out, it's got wet again. So, and if we do, we got to figure, our dirt loader has major control problems that we've worked on off and on all last year. We kind of gave up on it last year and ended up doing it with a loader and a backhoe, which wasn't pretty good. But that's a machine we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do with. Again, the electronics are too old. The people that made the box, that controlled everything, claim they didn't even make the box. And it's an electric over hydraulic issue in the early days of that technology. And so when you go to move forward with it, it moves backwards just a little bit before it decides to go forward. And when you got a conveyor that's sticking out over one of your trucks, you get a little nervous. It's kind of like you got to be together. So, but we had hoped to cut dirt got a whole list of, of to do, but it's just been too wet.
Okay, thanks. Phil?
Good morning. With the parking lot out here and the additional investigation that's going to be required, first of all, Morgan Saltgiver with ATC contacted IDM. They are willing to give us a 120-day extension on the completion date, which was January, which puts it out to April. So I gave her the permission to go ahead and request that extension because they understood that we don't know where the money's going to come from. But that's the next question is, how do we move forward to get this supplement agreement signed, and for the additional, that amount is basically $77,000, yeah, or $79.42 and 80 cents. For $8,000.
When will that be due?
This wouldn't, even if we signed the agreement today, it wouldn't be due till after the first of the year. It would probably be in the February or March timeframe where that money would be coming out. They did install the wells and stuff like that, so I would imagine, if we need to wait till after the first year, say, hey, you can't send an invoice until after the first year, I think we could do that. But I don't know where we would take this out of. Anyway, I'm not sure where you took it out for the first $25,000 that we spent on this.
Suggestions?
Well, they'll just have to remember in January to ask for an additional appropriation to the county council for February. And it'll have to come out of either rainy day or the general fund.
Which is fine, when we can have that ready to go, first meeting in January before the council. And I can just let ATC know if you're willing to go ahead and at least sign the contract today with the stipulation that it's subject to the additional appropriation in January.
Okay. You're all right with that?
Yeah, and I'll mention it tomorrow at the council meeting to tell them that, give them a heads up that it's coming, because normally they don't see additional appropriations at the beginning of the year. But since this came up, they also don't see them at the end of the year, so this is just, we're caught here in
Right.
this. So,
Okay.
yeah. I move that we approve the agreement with, it's called
Cardno ATC.
in the amount of $7,942.80, conditionally on the condition that the county council appropriates the necessary funds to proceed with the parking lot leaking underground storage tank testing.
Second. Phil, what was the total on that again?
7,000,
$942.80.
yeah, 942.80.
Okay. We have a motion and second on the floor to enter into a contract with Cardno ATC for additional well monitoring wells in the parking lot east of the courthouse. Total amount is $79.42.50, 80 cents. $7,942.80. This is contingent on the county council and an additional appropriation after the first year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And it just required one signature.
Right here.
Yes.
You don't want to talk about kids, but
Hopefully that, then my daughter texts me on Saturday. She just got a speeding. And other than that, we had a meeting with the wind farm last week, just to update us on everything. And Phil attended as well, and everything seems to be going well. They're moving like crazy to get everything up and moving. They plan on starting chip and seal next year, finishing up roadways and stuff, which about them doing it starting maybe in late May, something like that. So once that gets moving, we'll have inspectors on site that whole time as well too. So that is really it. If there's any other questions on the board?
I don't have any.
No.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill. Sheriff?
Not a whole lot, 31 people today. That's what we had. Actually got down a little bit over the weekend. Last time we talked about a snowmobile ordinance or something like that. Just want to kind of give you my opinion of what a lot of the other sheriffs have instilled in me. I went down to a meeting last Thursday, and I talked to 15 of the 21 sheriffs that were there, and one's from Tippecanoe County and White County was one. I kind of hit the northern ones who gets more snow than what we have, and they said they do not have an ordinance to allow snowmobiles on the roads. They think it is a traffic hazard, same way with Howard County Sheriff, due to the fact that when vehicles are coming down the road, snowmobiles don't stop at signs anyway. And we're not going to catch them if they're on the road anyway. So it's one of those deals, if you can make an ordinance, we're looking at more possible traffic accidents and stuff. That's what they said the biggest thing was. Now, you could do an ordinance where if we're under a snow emergency and they're not allowed to have vehicles aren't supposed to be on the road, and where they can be there for transportation to assist with, medicine or food or something out to the public.
How have we done that in the past? Because that's exactly what happens in snow.
We've done it without an ordinance. I used to do it when I was like 15 years old. I helped the sheriff's department take stuff out to Hobbs and stuff.
You're just saying you just look the other way.
Yeah, well, they're not going to say, they're going to call you for help. And we got a list of, people that have snowmobiles in the county. So if we need something, we can call them. It's the same thing with four-wheelers. If a farmer's going from field to field spraying, a lot of these sheriffs said that they, that's okay, as long as they're out there working. They don't allow them on the road because they're not really built for the road. If somebody turned real quick on one, it will roll, if somebody's unexperienced in it. The farmers that use them, they always look at it that way. It's just not meant, I don't think he puts turn signals on snowmobiles and things like that. I don't think they have them. So, just what everybody's been telling me and kind of the way I look at it, because I'm worried about the way they plow the roads. If you're going down one of the roads east and the other one's coming from north, and it's one of the heavily drifted roads, you don't see that snowmobile. You can't see him coming like this. So that's one thing that's really tough to explain.
Basically, then you're just recommending that snowmobiles just leave it status quo like it's always been.
Like what?
Like it's always has been.
Yeah, I think, you can, if you call them to come out and help you, I think you can make it you can even do it in a declaration. If we have a snow emergency, we will allow snowmobiles on the roadways, to assist or to retrieve food, move people, whatever we have to do. You can do that in a declaration too.
So we don't have to change anything then?
I don't think you do. I think you're okay. So,
All right.
other than that, you probably saw some big bills come through for JMI again. We're still making repairs. We're having a lot of problems with the plumbing still. So, other than that, that's all I have.
Thanks, John.
So you're okay with discontinuing the hotline phone?
Yeah, I'm fine with that, because we did join the Crime Stoppers, where they get a $1,000 reward if they give something. We joined that, the city and us together joined it, so now we'll get emails and tips if there's anything going on.
Well, if they need authorization from you, then.
I'd like to retrieve the 100 messages that's on there, see if there's anything that I could get to, if somebody could get me in, but
I mean, you don't even know how to get into it?
I had a password at one time, but it doesn't work. So, it's sitting here for good 6 months.
We won't miss it then.
But no, I won't miss it. And the other thing is that, you know, the way I was told, it was a freebie from the get-go. Because we use TDS as the sponsor of the phone line and everything. That's the way I was told by the previous sheriff, so. All right?
Thanks, John.
Uh-huh.
Greg Overmeyer.
Terry, thanks. Primary sheriff.
Oh, sorry, Terry. Had you in the same column with John.
Yeah.
Call you up next.
Chance to go do it?
Why is that?
I'm with the state of Indiana with the Department of Child Services, and specifically ISEPS, which is the acronym for the Child Enforcement. And the request today is basically to get permission to bring the Comcast feed into the building. And the reason for that is currently the state taxpayers, it costs $650 a month for a private T1 line. And the T1 line, if you're not familiar with it, it's a direct line, no other traffic's on it, that would go between this courthouse and the point of entry into the state system, the Indiana Office of Technology, who maintains that network. So that's an ongoing cost forever. And what we've done successfully in 6 other counties, we're looking at smaller counties to start with because of the traffic load, and then build to larger counties to get off those T1 lines. But what we use is a Comcast connection. And that Comcast connection, it's part of the internet, but we carve out what's called a VPN tunnel, or virtual private network interface. So the only service coming from that Comcast is just to get to the ISETS application. It's not distributing internet throughout the courthouse or anything. It's only just a carved out IP addresses. If you're familiar with those, we get the primary IP address, which is assigned to the modem, and then that modem has parameters set by another device that the Indiana Office of Technology installs. It's a firewall. So the only traffic allowed on that VPN tunnel from the courthouse to Indianapolis, again to the point of entry, is for traffic to the ISETS child support application. And the best part of this, the pricing is only $154 for taxpayers on a monthly basis, as well as the current T1 line is only 1.5 meg. The Comcast circuit is a 16.2 service. It's extremely more efficient than the 1.5 meg, and ultimately the data is encrypted. Currently on the T1 line, it's not encrypted, which means that IRS views it as a liability in terms of there would be an inside job, if you will, within AT&T. They could simply tap into that copper and pull out Social Security numbers, and it would still appear to Indianapolis that it's going through fine. So it would be an extreme case where it would have to be a lot of thought put into that to do it, but IRS views it as a liability. So we're trying to get off those T1 lines and go with an encrypted and much faster speed, because we're going to be adding some new features to the child support application that'll need a faster speed. The bottom line is that there is no cost to the county in terms to get that feed into the building. And if you can see on the diagram, basically they would be coming in, I wrote on their subway, there's an alley, and that's where their point of entry would be into the building. It'll all be boring, and they'll go through the normal approval process to get that feed into the building. And then once the feed is into the building, normally they bring in what's called a tap, and at the end of that tap there are 4 ports. We would be utilizing just 1 port for our needs to get the ISETS application to communicate. Again, all the costs are borne by the state to get that in place because of the savings down the way. It's well worth to get those feeds into the buildings and the courthouses.
Are they gonna bore that from the alley straight into the basement, the boiler room? Or are they gonna bore it up through the yard and then
The
have
boiler room
conduit
is-
outside?
Yeah.
I would like to know how they're going to do the boring and cut the entry into the courthouse.
Yeah, that could be provided by Comcast, but they first would need permission to even start that dialogue. And then, I don't know if, in yours, that's sort of a blanket form that you would sign, and I highlighted, it says for ISET's approval, I don't have any authority to tell them to go ahead and work within the courthouse. So if you wanted to provide a document to go along with this, asking a point of contact and not proceed with the work until you fully understand how they're going to come in the building, that's fine. I just wanted to start the process to get that accomplished, because you can detail to some degree probably how you want them to come into the building, but the dialogue has to start first. So if you wanted to, in response to this document, state that just a short letter or whatever, who the point of contact would be, and then a clear understanding of how they're going to get into the building before you let them start the work.
I would agree to give permission to investigate it, but I wouldn't give permission to do any boring or knocking holes through the courthouse wall until we knew for sure how.
Yeah, and that was-
If you want to be would you volunteer then to be the contact person?
I will volunteer to be the contact.
And then maybe Greg can type that up and put that with this.
Yeah, I would not sign this,
No.
because there could be a world of miscommunication out there. I would not sign this until they can meet with someone, and so you fully understand what they're planning to do. Because I don't want to get in a situation where this goes back and gets put on someone's desk, oh, we're good to go, and
I might hate to see a wire strung up and down outside the courthouse.
No, everything-
Going through the window of the third floor.
it would be, we've done this in other counties, so no, it's always, they're very cautious how they get in the court. Most courthouses no longer allow aerial connectivity to the courthouse after 9/11, so it's all underground, and fiber optic is the best, but this, they're actually going to bring in their cable into the building.
So what do we need to do then today?
At this point, I guess just take under advisement, and however you want to work with them locally to ensure that the work is done the way you want it to be done.
What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, and you had said that there'd be no cost to the county to do this work, but then once the line's in, then who is paying for
The
that?
state does.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're paying for the monthly.
Right, everything, ultimately, Comcast is going to install a modem, and that has a specific MAC number and IP address, and all that billing then, as that traffic starts, comes back to the state. So no, there's no cost to the state, to the county.
Okay,
So-
now I'll move then, that we take this under advisement so we get some further information.
Second?
We have a motion second on the floor to take this request under advisement, and then also to appoint Phil as the contact person of Comcast to discuss how the entry will be into the courthouse. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
If I could just be copied on all the correspondence, so, I mean, I won't do anything more until, you contact.
I'll just go through Greg right there.
Okay.
Maybe he can keep you.
Give me my card, eh? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Terry? Terry, you were bracketed in with the sheriff, I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
didn't even see your name there.
That's fine, good. I had a few things this morning I wanted to talk to you about. One being, we're finishing up with the Cardinal grant, and I had told you I'd come back and let you know what kind of fencing we were going to put in around there, and it will be a 2-rail fencing like what's already around there, so it'll be all consistent and look fairly nice. We're going to leave the back side, the south side open to the field, so that if we need to get larger equipment in there for any reason, we can do that. It's taken most of the summer, but we've figured out a way to get the fencing done and still have money left over for a garden shed. So I wanted to make sure that was okay to place a garden shed out there. It won't be a permanent structure. It'll be sitting on the blocks like most people have, I guess, around with the wooden floor. We haven't yet determined where to put that. We'll talk with the fair board about that, but my guess is it'll probably be on the west end, most likely. That's all I have to say about gardens.
Terry, what about the end of the season, the condition of the gardens?
And they look that way every year. This is our third or fourth year to do that. And we do have issues with gardeners not finishing the job, so to speak, getting their gardens cleared out. I sent a letter to all of the gardeners at the end of the year telling them that, if they can't comply with the contract, they're not going to be allowed to come back. And that the gardens would be in jeopardy of not being there, which after putting all the work into them that we've done, we don't want that to happen. That is going to be one of the responsibilities of the new ag educator to coordinate that. We've talked about several things. We've talked about starting a garden association. There are a few of the gardeners out there that would like to be more responsible for things out there and get things cleaned up, contact people, make sure things get done the way they're supposed to. So, we're trying to address that, but the bottom line is we just can't get the gardeners to finish the job, so to speak, and get in there and get their gardens cleaned up. So that is an issue that we're trying to come up with some kind of resolution for.
So then who does that? Who goes in and mows that all down?
Fair Board's volunteered to do that most years, and I think they're going to do it again this year.
It does look bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem. That's the issue that we have is we work mostly with volunteers and then trying to find the volunteers to volunteer is an issue when the gardeners don't do what they're supposed to do. So we're working on it. Any other questions about the gardens? You okay with the building as far as the type and?
Portable building.
And really the fence then is just for aesthetics?
Aesthetics, yeah. Yeah. We really couldn't come up with a fence that would keep people out of there. We didn't have the problems as bad this year. We still had people taking things, but not quite as bad this year. At least we didn't hear about it if it was.
Did you get the issue with the water all straightened out?
Yeah.
Is it functioning well?
Mm-hmm. The other two items that I have there are contracts. One is our contractual agreement with Purdue University that needs to be signed, and the other one is the memorandum of understanding with Ivy Tech. Our board approved it on last Wednesday evening. There really are no changes. We just changed the dates and agreed to one more year till we see how things go. The courses have kind of been hit and miss. They offer about 8 classes a semester, and about 3 or 4 at a time usually go. So it hasn't really grown much. So they were content with it. Leave things the way they are for another year and see what happens.
Terry, on the contractual services agreement, I had asked you about the county's contribution for those positions is how much for, we pay like a half person or?
You pay, well, it is a little confusing. Your contractual services are $68,870, and that's for 2 full-time people, of which you pay part of, and then 1 part-time person for which you pay the full amount, which is $29,010. So for 2 people, it's about $39,000. And then for the full half-time is.
Okay. And that is you and Brian and Elizabeth?
Yes.
Position? Okay, so then that was my question. When that spot is vacant, then is there a reduction in the county's contribution?
No. And I know what I saw your email this morning, and so I called over to Purdue, but I didn't get an answer. The one thing I do know is that that money goes into what they call a 310 account, and it's reserved for use to provide services to the county when the ag person's not there. So if we have to have someone come in to do a park program or if there's something going on, that money comes from that account. But that's all I can tell you right now until I hear from them to know any more about it. But I do know that's where it goes, and then it's reserved in that account.
So really, if we had no one the whole year, we'd still have to pay the $29,000.
I'm assuming that, but I don't know for sure until I hear from Purdue to see. It's the first time I've been in this position with.
Well, but then there was a time that we also paid it when she wasn't here before. You know, when we, who was it before her, before Elizabeth?
Oh, when Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was an interim time there also.
Yeah, there was about 2 or 3 months there now.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just looking out for.
Sure. No, I understand. I'll see what I can find out for you
Okay.
and let you know, but I do know that's where it goes. I know that's where it's held. What happens to it after that, I don't know unless we need to draw from it to provide services that have to be paid for when an educator's not present. So I can let you know when I find out from them.
Okay. So you have the agreements for it?
Yeah. I don't know. I've got 2 copies of each, so I'll take this one and we keep one. Actually, I should need 3 copies.
You okay with this, Bill? Okay, I'll move that we enter into a contractual agreement between Purdue University and Tipton County for extension contractual services in the amount of $68,870, commencing January 1, 2013 to December 31, 2013.
That was, by the way, a 1% increase, and there was no increase last year. So they're trying to be sensitive to the economic climate and position counties are in.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, on the floor to enter into an extension for the contractual services with Purdue University for the extension service. The agreed upon amount is $68,870 for the year 2013. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries.
Well, I'm asking if they'll be sensitive to the fact that we don't have an ag educator, we're still paying money for it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll move that we approve this memorandum of understanding between Ivy Tech Community College and Tipton Extension Education Center in the amount of $750 per month for 1 year beginning January 1, 2013, expiring December 31st, 2013.
Second.
We have a motion, second on the floor to enter into this memorandum, or to accept this memorandum of understanding with Ivy Tech College. The amount is $750 per month. That is for the calendar year 2013. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries.
Ivy Tech representative will be here this afternoon, so I can get his signature and then I'll get it back up here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Terry. You guys want to take a break? It's in our, a copy of it's in our packet too. Rick's comments were on this resolution for UV is that we need to adopt this today so that the council will have the right encouragement from us to consider the tax abatement process tomorrow night. Resolution 2012-02, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Tipton County, Indiana, approving an economic development agreement with Prairie Breeze Wind Farm, LLC, and certain other matters in connection therewith. Whereas the Board of Commissioners, you have a copy of it? Whereas the Board of Commissioners of Tipton County, Indiana, desires to benefit the health and general welfare of the citizens of Tipton County, Indiana, and create opportunities for gainful employment and business opportunities within the county. Whereas Prairie Breeze Wind Farm, LLC, is contemplating the development and construction of wind-powered electric generating facility in the county, which will have a rated capacity of approximately 50 to 150 megawatts. And whereas in the completion of the project, the company will invest between approximately $100 million and $300 million in equipment in the county and create approximately 4 to 6 permanent jobs. And whereas the company has requested assistance with the completion of certain road improvements, assistance with zoning approvals and permits, the approval of tax abatements and other assistance from the county with respect to the project, and whereas to include the company, or whereas to induce the company to complete the project, the board desires to approve the execution of an economic development agreement between the county and the company, a form of which has been presented to the board on the date hereof, pursuant to which certain incentives will be provided to the company in exchange for its commitment to complete the project, to make certain economic development payments, and to take certain other actions with respect to the project. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Tipton County, Indiana, that the board hereby finds that the execution and delivery of the economic development agreement are in the best interest of the county and its citizens. The board is authorized and directed to execute the economic development agreement in the name and on behalf of the county, and the auditor of the county is hereby authorized and directed to attest the execution of such agreement with such changes and modifications as such persons deem necessary or appropriate to effectuate this resolution, said persons' execution thereof to be conclusive evidence of the approval of such changes. The board will work with the company to negotiate a form of road use agreement between the county and the company, which agreement will be attached as an exhibit to the economic development agreement. The members of the board, the county council, the auditor of the county, the legal counsel of the county, and other appropriate officials of the county are hereby authorized to take all such actions and execute all such instruments as are necessary or desirable to effectuate this resolution. This resolution shall be in full force and effective from and after its adoption. Duly adopted on this 19th day of November 2012 by the Board of Commissioners of Tipton County.
For the public, this Prairie Breeze Wind Farm project is geographical area basically from 200 north to the west county line and to the north county line, and then over to approximately 400 west. It skirts up around Sharpsville. Someone give that to Luann, please. These are some maps here if anyone would like to see them. And I spoke with Rick last night, and Rick Hall, our Barnes and Noble attorney, and he said that it was that we should also inform the public that UV Wind Energy has agreed to give the county $700,000 as an economic development payment to 50 to 52 megawatts, and $11,000 per megawatt anything over 52. 50 to 52 megawatts is a rather small amount compared to what you've been used to with Eon, where theirs was around 100. And but they have, of course, have the option to go up to that amount as long as they pay $11,000 per megawatt. Some of you may know that they are planning permits require $1,750 per megawatt. And with this one, it would be $107,500 in permit fees up front, with $20,000 Board of Zoning Appeal approval fee. So this is all contingent upon the county council approving a 10-year tax payment. So what we're doing at this time, we're not signing the economic development agreement, we're simply approving this resolution that we are in support of it, and so that it can proceed forward tomorrow night with the preliminary approval of the economic revitalization area and the preliminary tax payment.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions about the wind farm?
Will there be public hearings associated with the planning commission or the commissioner's decisions regarding this?
No, only the tax abatement.
We'll have to go through the same process that Eon went through. And, so the next step is tomorrow night at the county council meeting.
The public hearing will be in the December tax abatement meeting.
You threw some numbers on me, I just couldn't get them all down. What was the number on the economic development agreement?
700,000.
And that's for 50 up to 52 megawatts
And that was negotiated by who?
by the commissioners and legal counsel, meeting with their legal counsel.
Who's our legal counsel on this project?
Rick Hall from Barnes and Thornburg, same person who's represented us with Eon and other projects.
And that firm prepared the resolution.
And then the 11,000 is anything over 52 megawatts is times 11,000. So if you would take that to like 100, then, or 110, it would be like 1.33 million if they built about the same type of farm.
And does the resolution make a recommendation for a time period on the abatement?
No. Any other questions? We have adoption. We have a motion to adopt this resolution.
I move we approve resolution number 2012-02. A resolution to approve an economic development agreement with Prairie Breeze Wind Farm LLC.
Okay, we have a motion second to then to adopt resolution 2012-02, which is a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Tipton County, Indiana, approving an economic development agreement with Prairie Breeze Wind Farm LLC. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a representative with the Life Steps Mini March?
Here I am.
Okay, come on up and have a seat.
Hi, my name is Lori McCormack. I am from the Life Steps Mini March for Life, and we are asking for permission to hold a rally on the court steps on January 26th for right to life issues.
What will that entail?
Probably a couple of speakers. We're currently looking at permission to go through town. I'm not sure if this is your board or if it's, the police officer said we needed permission from you. Stop at several churches along the way with presentations, and then at noon we hope to be on the courthouse steps with a couple of presenters. Some music, nothing. We're trying to keep it scheduled so that we can keep hostilities down, just be a presence. And then from there we would march to a different church with more programming.
The marches in town would be approved by the city.
Okay.
But your rally here
Okay.
around the courthouse would be our approval.
Okay. So we're new to this, so we're just kind of figuring out what we need to do. We know we have to go to the state highway department to be able to use 28 and 19.
So you're starting here?
No, we're actually starting, hopefully if we get the permits, we're starting out at Heartland, out on 19. We'll process into town. We have several churches. We haven't figured out the direct route yet, but we would like to, like I said, noon, be here at the courthouse.
For how long?
Probably about an hour, but we would need extra time for like setup and tear down of microphones and things like that.
Is there going to be decorating or anything?
Huh?
Will there be any decorating or anything?
No, probably just a podium microphone system that people can, use to project. If people want to carry signs and that, then they can do that. We will be following a cross, a portable cross. But as far as actual decorating on the courthouse lawns or anything, it would just probably be a podium.
I was just asking that for concern of cleanup afterwards.
Right, right. We would be responsible for that if there was any tear up, set down, if there was any cleanup to do, we would do that because, sometimes people bring their own drinks and aren't responsible with the cleanup of that. So we would make sure that that would happen.
What is the date?
January 26th.
We do have a form that is to be filled out for request to use the county courthouse.
Okay.
Did you, Greg, have you come across those?
No, I'm aware that there is a form. I think it may be in the insurance, NJ Insurance. I'm not positive. I'll find that form for them.
We were not told about that. We were just told to come here, so here I am.
That's fine. I sure don't have a problem with it. So all we need is a motion to grant the request, and then if you want the request in writing, Greg can take care of it before you leave today.
Could, we were told by the police that they needed to have notification of that, so if that could happen, please.
I'll move that we allow Life Steps Mini March for Life to use the courthouse lawn for approximately 1 hour on January 26th.
Be responsible for
And be responsible for anything related to cleanup.
You probably need to broaden that time.
Okay,
She
for,
already said that.
Yeah, I would think probably just to give us time to clean up and set up and everything, 11 to maybe 3?
okay.
Yes, please.
All right, I'll amend that motion from 11 to 3 with flexibility depending on what your needs are.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second on the floor to allow Life Steps Mini March to take place and use the county's property at the courthouse on January 26, 2013 from 11 to 3 p.m. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We need to do that bulk agreement. It was sandwiched in there too. Under Prairie Breeze. The umbrella agreement. And I did did talk to Matt about this because, and told him that I'm also Rick too, that we really don't need their help on the road use agreement or the decommissioning agreement. And I suggested to him that we would probably strike those two things as far as the scope of services. I mean, we really don't need them. I'm on that.
We didn't use them before, did we, Larry? On the road use agreement, Umball Associates?
Well, like they were there, when we were discussing the development, at the same time for, yeah, I think we will, I haven't heard back from Rick Hall. I was supposed to send the definition of the road work once the other night. I assume we got it.
But, you know, we need to watch their time a little closer this time so that we can recoup some of what we went over last time. So
Well,
I-
really, they're not needed for anything, only in tax abatement calculations. I don't know why we need them for anything besides that.
That's what I told him. I did check with Scott, and he said that they weren't needed tomorrow night, but probably the final night they would be, but tomorrow's just basic. So, Matt was okay with us striking number 3 and 4 out of the scope of services. And, I mean, they've already done number 2, they've already been there for that. Number 1 and 2, they've already rolled in, so. I move we accept that an agreement, to enter into an agreement with Umball and Associates to provide financial advisory services related to the Prairie Breeze Wind Farm Development Project with striking items 3 and 4 in their proposal.
Second. We have a motion second on the floor to enter into a financial advisory services agreement with Umball concerning the Prairie Breeze Wind Farm. In this agreement, we are proposing that we strike items 3 and 4, which is the road use agreement and decommissioning agreement. We don't feel that we need their services for that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So we probably better have an updated proposal if we're going to sign this that removes 3 and 4.
He said we could just strike it out if you want.
If you want to mark it out, that's fine, and we'll sign it. X it out. Yeah. Yes. And you'll need your initial as well. Yes. Yeah. Is Chuck Chuck Bell? Yeah, he's not on this. Is that? He looks like Bradley. Inspector shaking his head, he doesn't want any responsibility. That's not Brad.
the ADA admin job, that we thought that Larry recommended that Steve do. I think you might know that he doesn't really want to do it, and he thought it was really time consuming for him. And so I talked to Dee Welch and Lisa Philbin in the health department, and they were really excited about wanting to do it. And they felt like that they're very empathetic toward handicapped people anyway, and so they would like to be able to do it, to assume that responsibility, and Steve was absolutely delighted. So
That'd be fine.
I would like
I knew
to.
Steve didn't want to do it.
And he said that he had started to do a few things, but he would get with them and pass everything over. And so I'd like to formally name Dee Welch and Lisa Philbin as our ADA administrators.
Sure. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to appoint Dee Welch and Lisa Philbin as our ADA facilitators, contact people, and representatives. They'll be working with DLZ. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. That's, okay. Christina? Good morning.
The state has updated the state septic rule again. They did a lot of minor changes to it, so we have to update our ordinance again just so that way it conforms to what the state rule says. I have highlighted, should have a copy of the new ordinance in your packets that I'm proposing to adopt, and all of the new is highlighted. Most of it is just reference changes, like incorporating by reference the new 8.3 rather than the 8.2. I did change, if you look under the definition section on page 2, definitions M and N, it was a perimeter drain and perimeter drain separation distance, and I changed it to subsurface drain just to better reflect what the state rule says. Because when they talk, a perimeter drain is just a type of subsurface drain. So this way it'll incorporate all types of subsurface drains and not the perimeter drain, with what our definition talks about. And then the state changed the requirement for effluent filters, so I deleted a section from that on page 5, just to better illuminate what the state law says about the outlet filters. And then one other thing I did add was in section 7 on page 6. If you look at subsection 4, an approved alternate site may be required by the health officer or their designee. That's something that we do in practice. Like if someone is, like their home burns down and so they have to build a new home and they want to connect to the existing septic system. If that septic system, say 30 years old, but for some reason, like they can connect their new house to that, we want to make sure that they have an alternate site. So when that system does eventually fail, we know that they can then still build a new system. And so that's just putting in practice already what we do into the actual rule, so we have more legal standing with it. And then I'd also attach to your packets references, what the documents that the state law incorporates by reference, because I wasn't sure this early morning if we would have to then also incorporate all of those ourselves, and if I'd have to then add and list all of those in our incorporated by reference section in section 2. But I contacted someone with the state, and since if we already reference the whole state law, obviously then we don't have to reference everything that they also reference. So I could go ahead and shorten that section to where it just mentions the state law, and I can delete 2 through 7 because it's already referenced.
What do we need to do for you today?
I just need to know that you will pass the ordinance. I can make that, once I can unhighlight the areas and then just delete this section on section 2, the 2 through 7, and then have it ready for signatures.
For our next meeting?
Yeah, exactly. The new state law goes into effect today, so we'll have it, our ordinance passed pretty quick.
With her changes. And then sign it. Sign it. Do that. We could go ahead and approve it today.
Mhm.
You get it ready and we'll sign it once
Okay.
it's prepared.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion, we, adopt the Tipton County septic ordinance for 2011 with the state recommended changes.
Okay, we have a motion second on the floor to amend ordinance 2010-11 to reflect changes made by the state in the Tipton County septic ordinance. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Let us know when it's ready to sign, or Greg can, and we'll
Okay.
stop the
I
time.
will do that, thank you.
Thank you.
How are your properties coming, Christina?
They're coming.
Okay.
The Paul Davis property did transfer to the new owner, so that's not something we'll have to worry about for it anymore. He did say he plans on trying to get all that done by January 1st.
Did you let John know so he won't be working on that
Yes,
anymore?
I
Great.
did. I sent
Okay,
an email.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, looks like the two people we're waiting for are not here. Go ahead and do Chuck. You have anything, Chuck?
No, not.
For some reason, Phil just wants to hear you speak.
Right.
He says he has an update. Yeah, but see, that's part of
Find
it.
out about that phone bill?
That's Joe
I will.
Caliber.
Okay.
Yeah. Joe, do you have something on the EMS?
No, sir, I don't. I didn't even realize on the agenda was at o'clock
Okay.
tonight when I got this. I don't know what that's about.
That's Brad Nichols is the, Brad Nichols is giving the, had asked him for the presentation on the EMS. And then Commissioner conference is Joe's request.
On the,
Would you?
well,
I thought you were.
the only background I know on the commissioners conference is I went on the commissioners conference website to register, and I wanted to know if the county was registered. So I made some comment to some, maybe Phil, someone, and they said, well, just have Greg put you on the list.
That's what they
Greg
did for
wasn't
me.
here, and I told Jane Letzinger, and then, so I don't know.
Okay,
what
I got
this
you
is
on
about.
this list instead of on the list.
So,
Okay.
I don't know. If all, you know,
So his request is, your request is to go to the Commissioners Conference and have Greg sign you up.
yeah, but I don't know, are you funded for that? I'll pay for it, whatever, I don't.
In the past, the county's paid for commissioner-elects or, people that are, have been elected but have not been appointed, sworn in yet.
Somebody let me know.
Except we don't have enough money.
Guess you're paying your own way, Joe.
Yes, I am.
Okay, in your packet is the executive session minutes, the record of that from November 8th.
Joe, what you could do though is, I don't know why you couldn't, I know that we budgeted more money for next year in our travel and conference. You could just turn it in, maybe, turn it in next year. Because I think now you don't even get the early fee. I think if you register early, there's a discount, you register late, it's.
I think
I think it was like
that's it.
October 19th, but I thought that might be a little presumptuous of me.
I think it's like 165 now, maybe.
They still need to discuss there.
Well, anyway, whatever it is, you may, since there is more money in next year, you could probably submit the claim.
All right.
Okay, we need a motion.
Yeah. You got a problem with those?
Oh, wait. What were you on, executive session?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's fine, go ahead.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes for the joint executive session of the Tipton County Board of Commissioners and County Council of November the 8th, 2012.
Second.
We have a motion second on the floor to approve the account of the minutes of the joint executive session of the Tipton County Board of Commissioners and County Council that took place on November 8th. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. You have a copy for us to sign, Greg?
I've got a estimate here for Pickering Interiors to do more of the plaster repair, which would be the planning office, surveyor's office, health department, the conference room, and there were some over the display cabinets for $6,000.
Does that also do that area on the landing, between the first and second floor?
Says it's still solid if we get that leak stuff. Which the guy said he came and patched that leak yesterday. So,
And you guys are happy with what he's done so far?
I thought he did, his work was real nice. Are you?
Okay, I'll move that we allow Mr. Pickering to proceed with some further work in the first floor of the courthouse to patch, replaster, and to paint some areas in the walls for the amount of $6,000 to be taken from project number 48, courthouse renovation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second on the floor to approve this estimate with Wayne Pickering for $6,000 for plaster and painting work in the courthouse. And the money is to come out of project 48. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
I don't know about this bill for this proposal for the clock. I mean, I know what it is, but I didn't know how much, or, if it was needed or.
This is more of an FYI.
Yeah, okay.
The repairman was in to correct the tower after the time change. For 3 or 4 days,
Right.
we were severely out of sync with reality.
Okay.
And in the course of conversation, he suggested that there was a controller that could be installed that would allow the clock to auto change time in the spring and the fall, and when there was a power outage, it would correct the timing without having to have a repairman come in and physically adjust the clock. So I asked him to give us an estimate so we would know for future reference what it might cost to do that. And it's approximately $6,000.
How much we got left before you?
I don't know, but what does it cost to have them come in to fix it like the other day?
We currently have a preventive maintenance agreement. I believe there's no charge for this for this visit.
How much or how long does that go?
I don't know the term of the contract.
Maybe we should look that up.
This is perhaps for a future time.
Okay.
So,
Okay, let's see what we have in that agreement. If it's not costing us anything now, then.
It's a matter of time till that mechanism.
I know.
Sets.
Yeah, let's just see kind of where we are in the next.
I haven't been up there to check to see. I got his report. I haven't been up there to check it.
Let's see where we are with the next 2 meetings as far as our funds.
Okay, Jason?
Yeah, I've got a couple quick issues. The first one being in your packages, you should have a
Copy of the affirmation that council was kind enough to appropriate monies for a new county surveying vehicle. This is a little bit different.
they appropriate $9,000 a year with the thinking it'd be $27,000 total. And what you have in front of you is just talking about our process of purchasing vehicles or certain amounts. The state code shows that anywhere from what they consider a small purchase is $50,000. Anything below that state level, that's the state minimum. You would not have to request any quotes, any bids, nothing along those lines. When it's 50 to 150,000 per state code, that's when you have to at least solicit 3 quotes, not bids, but 3 quotes, and then supply them to the commissioners. And anything over 150, you have to do the full invitation, like with Larry's purchasing those big trucks, and he has to go through that full thing. We do have a local ordinance, and as with any other ordinances, the local government body can strengthen. They can't make it any more lax than the state one, but we do have an ordinance, which is ordinance number 2010-02, which requires small purchases, anything under $10,000. The purchasing agent shall get together 3 estimates or solicit 3 invitations, 3 quotes, and then provide them to you guys for your consideration. And that's what that letter is showing. Our office had submitted letters, requesting quotes to Dan Young here in Tipton, Tipton Ford here in Tipton, and Button Chrysler Dodge. Since our purchase price would be over the $10,000, we were required by our local ordinance to do that, and that's what we were presenting in front of this board today. You do not have to do the public advertising according to local ordinance and state ordinance. Didn't have to be sealed bids. We were just needing 3 invitations, kind of like what we do in drainage board. But that's what's supplied today, and this is only the second capital purchase I believe I've done since I've been county surveyor. So second time I've been in front of this board, but that's what I'm here submitting to you was what I'd done, and if you feel comfortable for it, we're looking for action to take the lowest.
How much difference was it?
Well, you do have those in your packages, but there was only really, there should have been 3, at least the 2 estimates should have been enclosed.
Just the one. Got 3 estimates.
Are you missing one?
2 estimates?
I'm sorry. The only, as further in my letter, the only 2 that submitted quotes back was Tipton Ford and was Dan Young. Button Dodge Chrysler did not submit back a quote. They for whatever reason, the letters were sent. Dean followed up with a phone call. He talked to them directly, and they just weren't. I don't know if it's not enough money or whatever, but these were the only 2 we'd received back, and that is allowed per ordinance if you feel my explanation is sufficient. But you'll notice the quote from Tipton Ford was for $25,802, while the one from Dan Young was $25,350. The interesting thing is, you'll notice on the Dan Young one, there's a 3-year, 1 pay per year with a rate of 3.5%. That is a quote of $8,769. So that comes in under the $9,000 that the council has appropriated. The Ford component, their financing package, first payment, $9,298.28. So that would exceed the $9,000 a year threshold. And they're both the same things, $1 buyout at the end of the 3 years. So that's when you guys would own it, is at the end of the 3 years. So that's what I was here proposing today.
And Chuck wants your truck.
Oh, I apologize, yes. 3 or 4 years ago, we had got estimates on depositing, a trade-in, and the highest we were getting on that vehicle was $1,000. Just informal talks with Chuck Bell, and he's here, they would like to just simply have the old vehicle. They would use it on a limited basis to pull their command center / health department trailer. He's inspected it. The engine is large enough to accommodate. So that would be my recommendation is if you approve this, then yes, you would allow Chuck, if his opinion is still that he wants the vehicle. Because it'll be limited service, but they currently don't have anything over there to tow unless I think it's Corey's vehicle or Dave's.
Or we use, the truck will be used just to move mobile command and the trailer when needed. And right now it would be just, like you said, on a very limited basis. There's an incident or training or something like that. And that truck will pull it with just a few modifications that we would do, just to strengthen the towing capacity, really. So it will do what we need it to do. Because currently, right now, we use one of the fire department's trucks, and it's just not feasible for the rest of the entities in the county that could have access to it.
When we transferred the highway vehicles to you, did we have to change the title?
No.
What did we transfer, Chuck?
On the two sheriff's cars.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant, the sheriff's
That we did.
cars.
The only thing was when I registered, I just had to, they couldn't be registered as police cars. We had to change it to municipality. So if this is already registered as a municipality, then there wouldn't be a difference.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. It currently is. Listed as a municipality vehicle.
What's your pleasure then on?
My recommendation would be go ahead and accept the lowest quote. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks for them to deliver the product, so that would fit into my schedule next year. And but it'd be my recommendation to go with the quote from Danion James Center.
Okay, I'll move that we accept the recommendation from the surveyor to accept the quote from Dan Young, Tipton LLC, in the amount of $25,350 for a truck for the county surveyor, and to allow the EMA department to use the existing county surveyor truck.
Second. Got a motion second on the floor to accept the surveyor's recommendation to purchasing a 2013 Silverado 2500 heavy-duty four-wheel drive extended cab from Dan Young, for a total of $25,350, and then transfer the usage of his Ford pickup that he currently has to EMS department Chuck Bell, or EMA. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Well, thank you, Commissioners.
I have another piece of business. This is some what I consider to be good news. As we've all read somewhat in Tipton County Tribune and Kokomo Tribune,
There's been some notifications regarding the floodplains in Tipton. Not only in Tipton, but in other counties. All these maps are getting updated. Currently, what you have in front of you is Buck Creek. And Buck Creek, for those that don't know, is right over here on State Road 28. It feeds into the back 9 on the golf course on the west side of 300. Or 200, and it really stretches a significant way. It actually makes its way almost over to County Road 500 west, but it goes northwesterly up through the railroad tracks. Through our industrial park area, that the county and city have some utilities and ground out there. But what you have in front of you is a copy of the floodplain map, and the blue line on there denotes the proposed floodplain changes that FEMA wants to implement. In other words, that's what they've studied, that's what they say is our chance for flooding, and that can have a negative impact on development. If somebody's looking to locate or expand there, they might see the floodplain. You can build in there, you just have to meet more stringent requirements, building a pad up or something along those lines. But whenever that came together, I know it's been reported that Mayor Havens has been into Big Cicero, talking about Cicero.
But what you have in front of you there is the money that the mayor has spent to refute the evidence in Buck Creek. Along with our office, we were able to provide some detailed cross-sections for his engineering firm, Christopher Burke Engineering. And what you see there is a big revision. The red lines indicate what we perceive and what math and the engineering, Christopher Burke Engineering, plays out, showing the reduction in the floodplain as compared to what they're proposing. It's significant through the industrial area where the study was done. As you can see, for those who don't have a point of reference, if anyone knows where DC Coaters or perhaps Botcher or even steel parts plant 1 or 2, I can't recall which one the old one is on the west side of the road, but with FEMA's determination, all that would have been in the proposed floodplain. With the revised data we've supplied, none of that is. Botcher, none of it is. None of the building in Midwest Sheets would be in there. So once again, prior to us taking the time and the mayor spending the money and the engineering firm looking at the data, all that would have been in. Now it's going to come out. So what they're asking for, the engineering firm, is what they consider a letter of concurrence. That although we didn't pay for it, I should say the county commissioners, we would like, they need a letter from you saying that, yeah, you know, your data that you provided as a refute to what FEMA is providing, we agree with it and we support it, and please move forward with it.
Who did the blue?
The blue?
I mean, I see that it says FEMA, but who actually did that? They had engineers come in and do it?
Well, on that stuff there, what we believe is that the LiDAR data was used. And for those who don't know what LiDAR is, it's just when they do the aerials, the flyovers for like the assessing units, they also can get a 3D model, or it's just like radar, it's bouncing an image off the ground. The problem with that is it does not get down into the channels. So as you're looking at the bottom of that map, there you can see these green lines that are cross sections, and where they're really packed tight together, those are the field ones that we went outside from our office and went down in the ditch, came up the other side. That's where the engineer wanted to see those cross sections taken at. And that's what really made the difference. And they've acknowledged that getting down into that channel is really the key, because then that helps them figure their volumes, because they can't really get a good depth when they're using the LiDAR. But it is a relatively quick and, I should say, relatively inexpensive way for some people to do some rough elevations, some rough modeling.
So there's some areas that are more expanded than theirs.
I would agree with that, and that is simply the focus of the refuting of the FEMA map for Buck Creek was the thinking that we were directing development into the industrial park. We have some utilities that are there, we have some existing buildings that are there, and this was going to impact it in a negative way. So there was no additional cross sections taken north of, I can't remember what the name of that subdivision is, but it's south of Division. So yeah, they probably used the LiDAR and you were not able to get down inside the drainage ditch. But yes, I would agree that there are certain areas north of where we did the actual physical measurements that, well, they pretty much hold what FEMA's got, but she's correct. There's a couple areas where it's a little bit larger than what FEMA was proposing.
So there was a meeting on Thursday where this was all explained to you?
Yes.
Was this Peggy Shepherd there?
No. This all came to me via the city engineer, and once again, they're the ones that were paying. So
Did the city engineer call the meeting?
I don't know. He asked me my availability. And
Did you guys get an invitation
From Jason.
You got an invitation from Jason?
Mike, Wyatt had given us 3 or 4 days. I think he sent the email last Friday, and no, sorry, it would be last Monday, and asking what my availability was, and then at the same time, he was asking what time Mike could be there, because he said Don, I think he said Don only had a couple of days, because I knew Wyatt was the central point of getting the whole thing put together, since it had to do with engineering. So yeah, Gene, I believe that's correct. I did call Mike and ask him. There was 2 days. It was that, was it Thursday we met? It was Thursday, or it could have been today or tomorrow was the 2 days that Don and Wyatt had put on the email.
And you were there too, Phil?
I wasn't invited.
Phil wasn't there?
I was there. I was in the courthouse.
It's your recommendation then that we send this letter then to DNR?
Yeah, it would be my recommendation that we do approve and sign the letter of concurrence. It's somewhat of a form letter that was provided to me Friday evening from the mayor's office, and I made the changes, and I believe I emailed them to you guys Friday night or Saturday, just so you could have some review. I know it's a quick turnaround, but I forgot to mention the 90-day appeal process has started. So the clock is ticking. In other words, I think the date is February. There's a certain date that all this appeal data has to be in for it to be really considered. Not only are we appealing Buck Creek, but I know the planning department is going to appeal because the corporate boundaries are incorrect on what they're proposing. It's not a big change, but it is an appeal. Just as a point of reference, there's a different engineering firm that's looking at Big Cicero and trying to refute that evidence, or just to make sure that it's accurate. I told the mayor, seeing how surprising these 5 cross sections were and really the difference that it made in this floodplain, that our office was going to do 5 similar cross sections here for Tipton proper, submit that to the city engineer and to the engineering firm that they've hired, which is different. I believe it's BLN, just so whenever these maps get changed, that we can tell the citizens that we've done everything we can prior to moving forward to some big reconstruction on Big Cicero to alleviate the flooding, if that's the flavor of the board and the flavor of the citizens. So that was my commitment, to supply 5 cross sections, because just so I could sleep well at night, making sure that I had looked at everything before. But yeah, it would be my recommendation.
Do we have a motion?
We'll see if you got one. So,
No, I don't have any motions. I just think that, if you want the commissioners to sign something, I think that, we all should have been invited to the meeting and gotten the information firsthand from at the same time. But
I understand.
okay.
Then I'll make a motion, we sign the letter of concurrence for the appeal start with the flood insurance rate map, that flood insurance study.
Second.
We have a motion and a second then to sign this letter of concurrence for the flood insurance rate map and flood insurance study report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Great.
You want us to sign one of these?
Yes, sign one of those, and then just one, because they want me to scan it and get a copy. Well, I'd say the 2 pretty brown ones, if you wouldn't mind signing both those, and I need Greg to attest. Yeah, the brown ones are nice. And Jane, or I'm sorry, Commissioner, if this is moving fast forward, and I get that stuff to Big Cicero, and I get something done before the end of the year, and there's a meeting, we'll make sure that you know when it is now. Whether you can attend it or not is different, but yeah, we'll make sure that if BLN comes up with a good refuting thing. And I would imagine if Mr. Edson's going to refute evidence, he'll have to come up here and kind of do the same process to you guys. And I know if Big Cicero does it, since part of that is in is in your county, we'll have to bring the same thing up here to you guys. So this was the first one, hopefully, of many. And any individuals who want to, for whatever reason, object to it, all those objections need to go to this body here, not to Mr. Edson. That's if you're in the county. Now, if you're in the city, the letter says it has to go to the county executive, which is what these three people are. If you're in the city, the executive is obviously Mayor Havens. So if any of the individuals in the county or city want to object, that's where those need to go to, is what it says in the letter. And then these bodies here will end up forwarding those on at the end of the 90 days, I believe. So
The 90 days started the end of October.
yes, the 90 days start at the end of October with the publication in the Tipton County Tribune. So it will extinguish in February. So
Thanks, Jason.
just thank you, Commissioners.
EMS update, ambulance service, Brad Nichols.
Good morning. Oh, I think 4 years ago, the commissioners created an ordinance that actually created the EMS Oversight Board. And the boards have been in, we've had some agreements for like 3 years now with some providers for ambulance service. So I just wanted to update you where we're at and kind of what the board was doing. So I'm here on behalf of the EMS board this morning. Currently, the county has a contract with Seals Ambulance for providing a paramedic transporting ambulance, with the city of Tipton to provide a BLS transporting ambulance, with Cicero Township for a BLS transporting ambulance, and with Sharpsville Ambulance Service for a BLS transporting ambulance. The EMS Oversight Board had this past year, we meet quarterly. In the third quarter, actually in the second quarter, we asked the providers if there was anything substantial that they wanted to change or felt like needed to be changed, as the 3-year contract was coming to an end at the end of 2012. Seals did provide us in writing requests that they'd like to receive more money for their contract. They like an increase from $150,000 to $175,000. So they want $25,000 increase. So with that, the EMS board discussed it, and at the board level did accept that as a valid request, and in our budget presented to the county council included that number in the budgetary figures. That budget was approved by the county council. The thing that the EMS board would like to do and recommends, they would like to not just have a 1-year contract with Seals. They would like to go ahead and extend a new 3-year contract to Seals for paramedic ambulance. The thing that the board discussed at both the third and fourth quarter meetings was the ability to lock that price in. Some of the things that were discussed, of course, the quality of the service, and the city and the county were very, very pleased at the board level with the service we've had. I don't know, the board really has not heard complaints from citizens about pricing issues or service issues. The dispatch seems to have a good handle on having the vehicles available. The EMS board has a representative that the commissioners appoint, the county council appoints, the city council, the mayor, and the hospital. And all 5 of those individuals discussed that potential and have recommended that the commissioners grant a 3-year contract to Seals. I know that was presented to the county attorney for legal opinions, and he said it's an issue of policy whether you want to do that or not. So basically I'm here just to, on behalf of the board, to request that the county grant a 3-year contract to Seals for paramedic ambulance service for the $175 a year. That would be for 2013, 2014, and 2015.
Brad, I'm not opposed to anything that Seals has done at all. And I know that this board that we created is new, but just from, procedurally, I want to make sure that, when it came to the 3-year, after the end of the 3-year, and then we went to the 1 year, really even that extension of the contract should have come before the Board of Commissioners, because it was a new price. Because when you said that we went from 150 to 175, even the 1 year, that should have come to the commissioners. But, I just want it to be known that, those are the types of things that, if there was a commissioner representative on the board, then that may have been okay, but since we don't, we had Mr. Horner, and he didn't know the policy, that probably got overlooked.
Well, the EMS board cannot grant that request unilaterally.
Right.
I mean, the EMS board is receptive to that and has presented that in the budget to the council. The council just made the money available.
Yeah, I know.
It's true that if you want to continue with SEALs at 175, even for 1 year, the commissioners need to agree to that. So it's not, the EMS board doesn't have the authority to change that. So on one hand, yes, we've changed and the contract does allow for a change in the price, but the EMS board really feels like there's value to extending and doing a 3-year contract. So neither one has been adopted or approved at your level, so it is up to the commissioners to decide.
But at this late date, though, see, now it's really too late to, if we didn't want to do it, to go back and say, now we want to do, request for proposals or something. That's what I'm saying. It would have been good to have done it, in July. But, I'm not opposed to a 3-year contract. I know that John originally said in an email it's bad policy to do this and not have requests for proposals. And you and I have talked about the fact that Rural Metro also they thought that this was going to be the year that we did request for proposals, and so they wanted in, and I know you said they submitted something, and I haven't seen it, but they thought that we were going to do that, the RFPs, and we're not. So I'm not opposed to having SEALs at all, and if we want to adopt that as our policy to have the 3-year contract, I'm not. It's really too late now to do RFPs. But we did start on this in September, and the problem is we went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with the attorney on him not really coming out and saying, for sure what we needed to do. I mean, that from emails that were exchanged. Right. So I think going forward, if this is what is the board's pleasure, I would recommend that it just be a 3-year and that's it. And none of this 1 year extending on, on terms of it's open-ended and just do it that way. The other thing that you and I discussed was the amounts to the other service providers, with the 36,000 to the city and the 18 to the other units. And was it 18 or 16?
16.
Okay, 16 to the other units. And I didn't know if there could be a little more parity in that, and whether you had gotten some numbers or some between like Cicero Township and the city, or Sharpsville, and those. I wasn't able to understand why those two were 16 and then the city was more than double.
In the year one, when the budget was created, I think the anticipation, well, there was 2 things. Cicero Township and Sharpsville are both volunteer agencies. So with the city being a paid entity, we felt like there was probably a little bit more cost to try to provide ambulance service. The thing that the county benefits from that is we are guaranteed that ambulance from the city will be staffed and available to make a run, whether it's in Windfall, Sharpsville, or Kempton, besides the city. And the volunteer agencies, you cannot guarantee that. So we felt like there was some value to that. And the other piece of that was there was anticipation that at some time there in the near future, the city would have the ability to potentially upgrade their service and maybe provide a paramedic level service.
But I do remember that, but they haven't.
They haven't, that's
so
correct.
So that's why I was wondering about the 36 versus the 16.
Well, and that's when we asked the entities whether there was something substantial that they felt like needed to change it for 2013. SEALS was the only one that wrote us anything as far as that. So we kind of let, and this was in our second quarter meeting when we put it out. I do agree. I think if we would go with, if the county would go with a 3-year contract, that it should be with SEALs as paramedics, it should be ending at year 3, at the end of year 3, so that the board knows during year 3, let's look at how things are provided. Maybe the county providers could do it. Maybe there's another private service that wants to come in. There's many ways that we need to be able to get medical care to the scene. We need to move people to the hospital. And the hospital is very adamant about getting their people that need it transferred out, getting them out, which is really technically not a county type issue, but it still goes to the general well-being of our citizens. So the EMS board, I would charge them with, in year 3, during year 3, to look at the whole system and revamp and lay it out and look at what's best practices and how do we want to provide that service. But I think right now, where things are, we've made some headway. One of the things the board really tried to do was to, and continues to try to do, is to bring things together as a unit where Windfall, Sharpsville, Kempton, the city of Tipton all provide similar care, that one person isn't doing something different than another, and we're more of a county cohesive kind of an agency, and it's coming. It's very slow, and it's not perfect. So, but I do think that the EMS board has been very pleased with SEALs, and one thing that we did ask about, if we would do RFPs, there is always a cost for those agencies to create a response. So that would be turned right around, and whoever we would give a contract to potentially, and it would be in their figures. So we would pay for that, ability to. So it's been 3 years. Do we need a complete RFP? The users and the citizens seem to be happy. So that's why the board is receptive and recommends the new 3-year. And if we did a new contract, I think what we should probably do is take the current contract. There's a couple sentences we could strike. We could make some changes so that there's no additional year-to-year with SEALs, and do a 3-year commitment and leave it at that. So I don't know there'd be a lot of administrative work, and you could do that in December. And SEALs is receptive to a 3-year agreement.
I've done some talking since then. In fact, I've had 3 other ambulance services really express a strong interest in wanting to come in and make bids, and I told them, it's too late this year for any RSPs. But there are, and it's not, Rural Metro was one of the 3, one out of Kokomo and one out of Muncie, have all expressed strong interest. I would like to, see what they do have to interest on. I mean, what do they have to offer? So if we tie it up for 3 years, we're not listening to it for another option that might be better than SEALs. I mean, I've heard nothing bad about SEALs. I mean, everybody has been pleased and happy, yes, but then I've had these other people contact me, and I'd like to at least see what they have to offer.
It's your call.
Well, if that's the case, then our only option is to enter into the 1-year contract with SEALs.
At the 175.
And John's opinion was between the 2 options, either redo it, going with the 3-year contract versus the 1-year extension. The 1-year extension was allowed in the contract. Thought it would be cleaner to do that, but
To do which way?
the 1 year, at least that's what I took from John's.
I think when you look at the potential of a different service, and that definitely could happen, but I know one of the proposals, the one that Rural Metro presented, they wanted to be housed in the fire department so that they'd have no expenses as far as, and SEALs is paying rent to whoever owns the building that they're in. So if you're looking at trying to get a rental agreement, if SEALs wants to do a year-to-year, is that more costly to them? Whereas if they had a 3-year agreement, could they wrap up? So trying to control some of the fixed costs, definitely a 3-year agreement's better for any provider. I don't know that we're going to get any less expensive as far as the cost to the county, and I don't know that we're going to get any better quality of service. So certainly, when we look at how we provide things, I think those are the two major factors: is what's the funding, what's going to be the cost, but then again, what's the quality of the service. So the EMS board, I know that your appointment from the commissioners last year for the 4 years was Bill Horner, and he's resigned. I'm an appointment from the county council, and my appointment is up. Mike Dollins is an appointment from the city council, and his appointment's up. So there's potential that out of the 5, you're going to start with 2 that would be on next year. So we're going to keep creating a wheel, it's going back and starting over again. I think that's going to be financially potential to cost us. I don't think that the 3-year agreement financially is going to hurt us at the county level.
I like your idea of maybe keeping it in-house, or what's it gonna take to bring it in-house?
We've always made that available. If any agency wants to step up to that level, they have that potential, whether it's the townships or the city or whoever. But the EMS board feels like it's not our position to say to an agency, you need to hire 4 paramedics, or you need to buy a chase vehicle, or you need to get 4 defibrillators, or this is how you're going to operate. If an entity wants to come in and say we can do it, this is how we can do it, and this is what we need for funding, then I think that's something the board could entertain. The thing about the contract, and the ones we're in right now, they all have a 90-day clause. So if you enter a 3-year agreement with SEALs, and one of the townships or somebody wants to do something different, and the EMS board sees the merit in that, then at the end of the year, with you do your 90-day clause and excuse yourselves from that commitment and do something different. So I don't know that there's not a lot of downside, I think, to doing the 3-year agreement. I think it shows that, again, it shows some faith that we're pleased with them. Maybe it's a little bit of a reward, but I think there's some benefits to it.
I don't like to break contracts.
What?
That's what I don't like, to break contracts, we make them 3 years, but I like what you said earlier, but
Well, I did get the phone call from Rural Metro, but I've not gotten any others. You said you had 2 more.
one from my city, one from Cooper. So I'd like to go for one there.
Well, John gave us the latitude to do either one, but, so, it's whatever you guys want to do.
Well, we don't have to make we can't, SEALs for sure has it for 1 more year. There's no question, because we can't do RFPs right now. So for sure, they've got it for 1 more year. But we need to decide the next meeting to sign a contract, I think.
Good.
So,
I'm okay with that.
do you have that proposal from Rural Metro that you could share with us? Just so that we kind of see it?
It was presented to the city fire department.
Do you have it, Jeff? Would they be opposed to us looking at it? That Andy, the guy, his name was Andy, I think, called me. Was that his name, Andy, from Rural Metro?
I don't remember his first name.
Okay.
The proposal was supposed to go to the EMS board.
Okay.
And I questioned that when he sent it back to me. I said, this isn't a proposal for us. The way you had it written up, in my opinion, wasn't even correct.
Okay.
But yeah, I can provide it to you to look at it. You just need to be careful.
Well, maybe it wouldn't even be appropriate because I think, maybe he was thinking that it was more to you and not for the EMS board. Okay. Well, I don't know. I suppose we can take the next 2 weeks and think about what we need to do.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Now we're going through our agenda. Yeah, Greg, make sure that's added to the agenda for the next meeting. Ambulance contract discussions. It'll be on the agenda next meeting. You guys have anything else that we've not covered?
Craig, you have the meeting minutes here for 10:22, didn't you?
No, I don't have it right. I had some medical issues that have slowed me down a little bit.
All right. Anything from the public? Motion adjourned. Motion adjourned. Motion second on the floor to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. You're adjourned.